The moderator is Mr. Prashant Govindan, a dynamic leader with over 2 decades worth of experience in starting up and growing business in professional audio, video, lighting, and control system. As an independent business consultant to leading manufacturer, he looks after setting up or growing India and SAARC present in professional audio and video business. Most recently, in his previous role, Prashant was the Senior Director in India, Harman Professional. He previously also served as a regional manager for Biome Systems. Mr. Prashant, please take the stage. Can we have a round of applause, please? Joining us next on this panel is Mr. Kapil Thiruvani, a principal consultant and projector director at Munro Acoustics. He is in charge of conducting all acoustic measurements and technical calculations pertaining to the project. Kapil has worked professionally across the globe over several projects as part of Munro Acoustics for over a decade. He has been involved in establishing a benchmark for acoustic standards in India across Asia-Pacific region. As an active member of the Institute of Acoustics, he ensures that all the measurements and presentations are in line with the ISO norms and the international acoustic standards. Please give a round of applause for Kapil Thiruvani. We have next joining us is Clarence D'Souza, who has led many roles in the AV industry in his over 2 decades experience. He started with custom installs and loudspeaker manufacturing for high-end home theaters and studio installs early in his career. He joined Mumbai-based Innovative Systems and Solutions, grew into Director Techno Sales, and led the team to many successful wins and implementations into the hospitality, corporate, educational, and residential space. He has also worked with Hong Kong-based AV consultants, IAN, which is IAN Harris Designs, and most recently, Harman Professionals. Can you please join us, Mr. Clarence D'Souza? A round of applause, please. And last but not the least is Mr. Abdul Wahid, Managing Director of iTechnology. He has been in the AV industry for more than 2 decades, delivering many successful projects and across various segments. He has been also doing the training conduction session of CAVS with us with Palm, and has helped out in many other editorial sections as well with our Palm Technology magazine. We are very glad to have you. Please join us, sir. Let's start the panel today.
Check. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we should serve more coffee. How's everyone doing? Show of hands. Great. So we're going to make this an interactive session. The topic is not as boring as it's made out to be. This is primarily going to be a discussion where we will discuss some of the key points of the system integration market, of what is going on in the current system integration part of the AV industry. All of us have been part of projects in one way or the other. The whole concept of AV integration has changed in the last couple of decades. When I came into the industry about 18 years ago, it was all a very boutique industry. People would have a fair idea of what they wanted in terms of functionality of an AV experience. And they would come and talk to us and say, hey, can you put a pair of loudspeakers, one projector, one screen? And we would try and struggle and give them a solution in one way or the other. And those were back in the day, they were, not even proper projectors. They were DLP not even DLP, what do you call them? The slide CRT projectors and OHPs. How many of you remember that era? OHP projectors? Schools? कितने लोगों ने वो देखा है slide वाला projector? There you go. So some people remember. So we've come from that era in the video side of things. On the audio side of things, even if you had a pair of loudspeakers in a room, that was considered very fancy. Of course, things took a turn in the 90s when you had home theater systems. Some of the prominent names in home theater systems came to India. Surround sound became a big buzzword. And then people wanted surround sound in every boardroom. There was a phase when everyone had surround sound. I don't know why they wanted that, but it was funny. So we've come a long way from then. And we have now started, or rather in the last 10 to 15 years, we have started seeing global technologies, global paradigms being applied to meeting rooms, corporate spaces, hospitality, pretty much every application that you see. So we've seen the evolution of AV in all these years. As AV has evolved, so has the technology. Things have moved from analog to digital. Things have moved from very basic component-based designs to more hybrid, to more involved digital designs. And that's where the whole convergence, of AV has happened. I mean, everyone talks about the convergence. I wanted to say that the convergence already happened. Everything is a digital device now, except things like microphones and loudspeakers, everything is digital. So now the thing is, these projects that we're talking about have also become so complex. They're not as simple as connecting a microphone to an amplifier or mixer amplifier and the sound comes out. It's not that simple. So we have to now look at AV as a multidisciplinary field rather than just audio, video, or lighting. It needs to be looked upon as an integrated discipline. And this is why we have this very eminent panel who our hostess just introduced. They have, between us on this room, we have, I think, about more than 60, 70 years of experience on the table here. So I just wanted to go around the table first to get their perspectives on what they've been through in all of the evolution of AV, and also to kind of let them talk a little bit about the journey that they have seen the evolution of AV. Over to you, Kapil.
Hello, everyone. For me, AV started with all-in-one, split, and became all-in-one again. When I say that, when we were looking at multi-channel audio, we never knew it was multi-channel audio. We always said, let's go Dolby. It was defined by companies who got these technologies onto the fore. Whenever we thought about television earlier, it used to be a branded television over there. We never knew what was the technology behind it. Just said a CRT. But what's happening now, when I get into the middle phase of it, we started understanding what digital audio is, what analog audio is, how's video matrix through different destinations. And then we started learning all those things. Like the education in India has been so book-read and book-fed. It's been technical for everyone. We'll know all our theory, but the practicals never caught up. I remember after my engineering, I went to a master's on the subject, and it was not a spoon-fed kind of thing. I had to understand everything over there. Today, when we go back to projects, when you're working on a multi-story residence or a multi-story commercial structure, they would start with the basics, as Prashant was saying earlier, that it is the electrical that would come into play, the HVAC and stuff. So all those got broken up into the multi-dimension part, which also contains the AV, the electric behind it. So what is happening again now is we're going back to the companies who will say that today we are with digital audio, so it came at Dante and it came on AVB, and it's going again. But now the companies are sharing data between them, so they are coming to a common platform, which is the evolution, I would say today, that we are coming to a common platform where you can cross-reference products between homes and studios and commercial devices. Having an earlier discussion, there's a very thin line between a home audio system and a pro audio system, or a studio or a commercial one. And they are all cross-used in different, we all experience that today. And you lose different devices into different, that means they are all coming on a common platform. When they all come on a common platform, means your basics have to be more and more solid. And when you're trying to use cross technology, there has to be handshakes and there has to be lip syncs, and you're discussing about how I went to the ISE and they were talking about variable lip sync depending on the data thing. So means today's job has become more difficult to understand the transfer of data, the speed, and how it is talking to the code for the audio multi-channel and the video, and then bringing it on a matrix and taking it everywhere. So the job is much difficult, but I think it's a bigger challenge for us to understand the basic. And I think if you understand the basics, it's just a piece of cake. So means I'm saying again, we're coming to all-in-one stage again, because all the technologies and all the companies are helping us to come to one global solution. I mean, that is what I feel has come today, from the all-in-one stage to split to the all-in-one.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hope you guys are all good. It's been a long time since we've had a gathering like this, 2 years. Like Prashant and Kapil rightly said, for a few of us, we were bought into this industry basically out of passion. We were at that point in time when there weren't many brands in India available as we have. We are spoiled for choice now. Everything is opened up. But back then we had to, like Prashant rightly said, make do with what we had, put together a solution. So we've come a long way from the 1985s onwards. And how technology has kept changing, like Kapil said, everything is coming together into one platform. We've seen how we've all, out of passion learned what products are out there, what we can possibly even build ourselves, because there were times when we were called to build our own things out of sheer compulsion. And then after having done that, we had brands coming into the country, things opened up for India, and then we, out of sheer passion, we learned what each piece of equipment would do, and we had a whole rack full of stuff, and then little by little those equipment racks became smaller, equipments merged, they became, very broad in their capabilities. There was a trepidation, should we do this or should we do that? Little by little the confidence grew. Different technologies came in audio, like CobraNet, and then Dante, and now like everything is, every piece of equipment is literally an IoT. So, and like Kapil said, you have seen everybody's now beginning to talk a single language. So you know that you can choose across the industry spectrum of things out there. So it's been a great journey. It's been good, and going forward, we were speaking just a little before we came on stage about what we can expect in the years to come. Frankly, it's a little difficult to predict, but it's going to be great. That is one thing for sure. So I'll hand it over to Abdul.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As my colleagues spoke about their journeys and how they perceive the entire AV technology. Yes, Prashant correctly said we started from OHPs. And like Kapil said, it was box selling initially. And how I see the entire journey, we are landing to box selling again. Like you buy a display with camera inbuilt, with speaker inbuilt, with microphone inbuilt, with Wi-Fi inbuilt, with wireless presentation inbuilt. So again, where this entire solution gone? Yes, of course, but the technology is ever evolving, and change is the only constant we can see. So it is continuously, the industry is evolving. Every day the new technologies are coming, but yes, they are slowly coming on one single platform. That how do I see it? And it is long journey. My earlier days, if I can recall, so I belong to a corporate industry and worked in Pro AV. So how do I see is like initially, the bosses, the CEOs, the head of the corporates used to see the devices in their offices and go back to their home, and they wish to have the same setup at their home. Like, they wanted the same plasma at their home. They wanted the same sound system. But now I see like lifestyle is driving the trends. Now they have good iPhone and they want similar setup in corporate. They have good Sony Bravia, which can do independent wireless. So they want that in office. Touch panels earlier days, like, when in boardroom, meeting room, people used to scare to touch it. They were like, they don't want to touch it. Now, even small kids at home, like, if we want to control them, we can control using phone. Like, they are not opening up their mouth to eat something. You show them some video and you can control completely. So it is become that powerful now. So lifestyle is driving the trends in corporate now. They have the wireless devices, they have smart TVs, so they want the same thing at home. So this is how the change I see it. There's still long way to go and many things to come.
So thanks everyone for sharing your perspectives. And like I said, over the years, we have started from selling devices and then more complex devices, and now then putting them together to solutions, and now we're back to selling boxes. So is that a full circle now? But in all that, what we have now seen is the size of projects, in terms of the value, or in terms of number of rooms, or in number of facilities or applications, has grown in complexity. And what that means is, earlier it used to be maybe 5 rooms or 4 rooms, or maybe 1 boardroom in a corporate organization, and everything else would be very simple meeting rooms and so on. Now, everybody wants a unified communication experience, a UC as they call it, in every room. And we also, now with the pandemic, thanks to the pandemic, everyone is on Zoom and WebEx and Teams, etc. But we are now seeing that that needs to interface back with the IT network. So it's no longer just AV. So AV and IT used to be in silos. Now AV and IT are treated together. So there are now questions about interoperability, the ability to handle AV traffic on the IT network, and also keep it secure. So these are some of the challenges that we are coming across. And as the size of the projects increases, the complexity also increases. So I just want to quickly touch upon how we handle complexity in the AV IT world. We'll share some instances of how we have been able to resolve some of that, and especially from an Indian context, what are the cultural nuances that we have come across when we deal with AV IT kind of convergence, and what are the tools that we are using in terms of, and again, project management is another very big paradigm. We commit to a customer that we will deliver the project in 6 months, but more often than not, we always face time challenges. I just want to touch upon some of those points in terms of supply, in terms of installation commissioning, in terms of coordinating with various agencies. I think that's the crux of today's discussion of how do we deliver quality despite all these challenges, despite all these timelines. And in today's context, when everyone's aware of the semiconductor shortages, right? Everyone's heard of that in this room. How do we still continue to deliver an acceptable level of quality to all of our customers? So in my personal perspective, I used to work for Harman before this. So as the manufacturer, we were always pushed and pushed and pushed by solution providers, by our partners, by our system integrators, that we need deliveries now. And we as manufacturers would always be challenged by saying, well, there are lead times. We run a manufacturing organization, so there are spares to be procured, there are components to be procured. So that typically runs 9 months, 12 months, even 24 months into the supply chain. So given today's condition, I can fully understand the pain of the industry. Anyway, I just want to hand it over to my colleagues here to give us a perspective of some of the challenges we are facing, how are we overcoming those, how are the multidisciplinary organizations getting involved, and specifically with the IT department in each of those organizations.
So we'll talk about BC before COVID. It was an easier job for all of us. We all are living very boring lives. We had designs on our table. We were looking at the audio separately, the video separately. We were seeing how to matrix it together. We used to get an IT expert to look at how this is going to work together. When we talk about broadcast communication over the network, we talk about bed channels and we talk about overhead channels. So bed channel is something which you would have to transmit anyways, which takes a lot of bandwidth. And then you had the over information, which was just telling you about the location on a matrix, or all that communication to tell you where to direct the signal where we are talking about. During COVID, all manufacturers who couldn't manufacture due to the restrictions were going back to the sustainability models. I was attending a lecture at ISC when the logistic guys told me that they were telling the public, that they were manufacturing something which could not be repaired. And everyone's saying that you are a sustainable company and you're talking about stuff. It's like, the thing is, we had to drive our sales. We had to keep our people employable. And now, so I said, now have you changed that? He said, no, we made a mistake. We just continued in the glory days, and that's why we are getting the supply chain problems right now. we- from 4 to 6 weeks has become 12 to 16 weeks for all our projects now. So we cannot really plan in the future. When you're planning a project now, which is say about, is going to be on the flow at say about 3 years, where you start fixing all the end terminations, that also cannot be confirmed right now due to the supply chain problems. Many challenges that come up onto that is, what if the demand and the user requirement changes? Everyone went from a hard connection, say a Cisco device, to something which is software based, saying that no, let us be ready for anything. Today we are using Zoom. Tomorrow we might be using Google Meet. So the challenge is that you have to design, over design for everything right now. So at the last minute, if you don't have the boxes for the solution, you can make sure that you can use all the other products that are there in the kitty, and that is a even more difficult job. It is to lay more wires, and when you're all going to a sustainability, you want to lay less number of wires. You wanted to do n+1. You don't do n+6, and means there are some rules, and those rules are being followed in this country. If your client is American, you have to use the ANSI norms. And I don't know if you guys face the same thing. When you go to the British norms, they have a different requirement. And in India, most building norms are followed by the British standards. But a lot of other norms are by the ANSI. So you're tied between that problem. What do you design to? The IS standards are there, but the IS standards are a little, I would say, unclear of what, because they will have one BIS, but that's not good enough to see a system. For example, the environmental law of India says that a daytime level should be 55 dB and nighttime level 45 dB. If you just walk out onto the main road, it's over 65 to 70 dB. So we have to push from individually, because the government will never do it. We'll have to push individually into our projects and gather data around us. What are the challenges you are facing in that project? Are you, and starting from the building management system, you cannot think of the AV system or the IT system without thinking of what is going to be the language which will handshake with, say, the building management system. And everything is IoT, everything is smart. The user, whether it's a corporate user or home user, would like to set the temperature in his or her boardroom to a certain preference. And if you don't know that what is going to be the communication, you'll come to that stage and say, oh, we didn't think about it earlier. And that kind of thinking, it's more lateral thinking. You need to take a few steps back. Abdul and we were discussing earlier that there's so much to learn for everyone, whether it's an OEM or it is from the lectures or just talks like that you get new ideas and you want to make your design a little more flexible, and it's more of the nested network, we would call it. And network is so important today. I'm not the expert over there as compared to my colleagues, but I would like to know the right terms to discuss with them so that they know they are ready for the future challenges.
Kapil, you've been traveling quite a bit. You've done projects. You've acted as a consultant both on the acoustic side and also on the electroacoustic side internationally. You have probably, among this panel, you probably traveled more countries than us all put together. So what do you see in terms of the diversity or the cultural difference when you engage with a customer in India versus somewhere, let's say, in Lebanon or?
So they don't try to multitask the way we do. So they are very clear that today from 11 to 11:30, we're only going to talk about the IT network. We will clear all the boxes over there. We know what we started off, where we'll be at the midterm, where we'll be in the end. But in India, we try to do so much more than we are assigned. And that is, I would think it's not a downfall, but it is chopping your own legs, because you need to clear everything. You cannot have a question about the IT when you're talking about, say, security later. And I feel when I work with projects internationally with other consultants, they're very clear in their requirements of there. So though we all make DBRs, it's there, but it's on a piece of paper. That DBR is followed to the T, thinking about every perspective. And no one is ashamed of asking that, hey, I'm not the expert, can you help me on this? And I think that way of communication is something where you are on the receiving end and get a little more information, and you can be smarter in the next project. So maybe you teach that to a third car. So the work culture, of course, in India, with the advent of all big OEMs and their partners and the clients who are international clients, you get to learn a lot. But care has to be taken. It doesn't get fizzle out in the thrive to multitask. It is very good. Indian engineers multitask, and that's why we are accounted for as the biggest workforce, engineering workforce. But I feel you'll be a little more well respected and a little more this when you take a step back and say, no, let us just talk about this right now. This is for the other day, and that really helps. It helps you to clear your mind and your doubts as well.
Claron, you've worked with one of the leading minds in the AV integration space, in the design space, Mr. Ian Harris. He's a leading consultant in the hospitality space. Claron has been partnered with Ian for the longest time. So can you throw some light on this in terms of the international exposure and the standards that you use? And of course, coming back to the main question about the multidisciplinary agencies that you had to interface with in some of the projects, and maybe some of the instances that you can enlighten the audience with.
Yes. So, right, actually working with Ian was really an amazing experience. It was an eye-opener to the kind of standards that are out there, world over, and how we could bring the best of those standards and incorporate into the AV environment in a project. It could be a hospitality project, it could be a corporate project. It was really amazing, and it made so much of sense why everything is documented, and it's there for people to read. Like Kapil said, if you don't know something, you're not up to date with it, it's fine, it's okay, because technology is changing every day. And it's fine to say, you know what, let me just go back, read about it, and come back to you tomorrow, and I'll see how I can work this out for you. It could be the architect who says that, because he had never faced these kind of requirements or international standards being deployed in projects. So it was an amazing experience, and it's very necessary for us as well. Sometimes we are so caught up in things, multiple projects happening at the same time. It's only good to say, let me go back, work this out for you, and come back with the right knowledge, come back with the right solution. And again, and as far as the experience with IHD was concerned, what I liked a lot about the way Ian Harris worked is he did due diligence for the client. He evaluated the systems integrators. He understood if they were capable of delivering this project or not. At times he would be called in to rescue a project. And he actually got down on his, sat on the carpet with the guys in the field, and he actually showed them how it is to be done. And that is something that I think is really necessary in the industry today. We need to have the systems integration industry upskill their teams. I mean, there are a lot of systems integrators out there who are really, really good. They can take a project from start to finish really wonderfully well. In fact, they can even point out things that are missed out. And it's fantastic.
I had I had the privilege of so many conversations with Ian when I would go to Hong Kong. And one of the things he would tell me repeatedly, and it's easy to forget that, is that do not take anything for granted. In a project, I said, what is the secret of your success? He said, I do not take anything for granted, because that one thing can make all the difference in terms of cost escalation, time escalation, and a whole lot of hassle, in terms of rework and so on. So thanks for sharing that insight, Claron. Really appreciate it. Abdul, you've worked with also one of the finest minds in the AV design space, Mr. Ranjit Singh, who's departed us. I mean, such a brilliant mind. Can you share some experiences of working with him in Singapore and some of the design? And I know Ranjit was a perfectionist. He was such a perfectionist, but he was also such a brilliant leader and also such a great mentor. And he would actually sit you down, just like Ian, and explain the basics of electronics. And, he's the one, I remember, I'll take this liberty of saying this, I met him once and I said, Ranjit, so what do you make of this industry? He says, you know, after all, this industry is about catering to your five senses, you know. And he said, at the end of the day, we are all analog. So he says, don't talk to me digital, I'm still an analog guy. So anyway, so many lovely memories with Ranjit. So I'll let you share some of those.
Yeah, actually, I had privilege to work with him for more than 10 years together. And my last conversation was during the last lockdown. Everything was shut down and people started working from home. Company started announcing like it is 100% work from home, and I spoke to him in length about like, you know, how the future of AV is going to be. And I remember like, you know, he is saying like, as we are discussing now, that people, everything is coming on a common platform. So as Kapil said, he has got the international exposure to like, when we are entering into large segment of projects, so it is not only AV they are talking about now. They look at you as a technology consultant. They look at you as a technology people. So everything coming on the platform, so IoT is becoming a big thing. Everything, whatever we are using as AV equipments are already on Ethernet. Everything is already connected to the cloud. And so these devices, he said, like, are intelligent already. They are smart devices. They're intelligent too, to control the temperature, lighting, brightness as per the people occupancy and as per the temperature load. So it is intelligent itself. Now it is become living, meaning that like, you know, if you have a automated watering system at the garden and it is heavy rains last night, so the watering system will give command to the pump not to start that day because it is already humid outside. So they are communicating, sensing the environment, and they are smart. So it is becoming a living technology. So everything will come under one domain, and that the word being tossed is IoT, I believe. So everything has to be connected each other and talk to each other. That is one thing we used to speak about. And secondly, like, you know, looking at the pandemic, everyone were very frustrated, but Ranjit was very hopeful of the situation. He said this pandemic will accelerate the technology. And it so happened, like, you know, post-pandemic, you were telling, like, as a manufacturer, you used to push the products. Now it became demand of the market, so much so, like, you know, we are running shortage of projects and had to plan it a year before. So large projects are a big challenge in terms of project planning, in terms of manpower allocation. Second big challenge that I see for execution of the project is the skilled manpower, skilled labor. Like, you know, this field is emerged out of the needs and out of the lifestyles and out of evolving technology. So you don't have formal education for it. For instance, audio, like, you need to learn physics, how the audio travels and how it reflects and what are the qualities and properties. Similarly, you have to learn the protocols of IT to transmit the audio to here and far end and on net. Equipments are electronics. And when you go for installation, part of civil and mechanical and HVAC, everything plays important role. So you don't have a formal education for any AV profession. So for large projects, it is huge challenge that, like, you know, to get professional skilled manpower. So that is a big challenge, and Ranjit used to tell us, like, you know, you need to be on top of it. There is no age of learning. And so, like, you know, shows like this also conduct CAVS where, like, you know, you are certifying people so that they get a formal education of our industry. So that was Ranjit's dream, and last session was conducted by him in last Palm Show. And we got the privilege to continue the same thing. So these are few challenges what I feel are there in front of us.
Thanks for that insight, Abdul. I mean, that is such a beautiful reference to Ranjit. I mean, he was always a teacher, always, you know, he was less of an entrepreneur or less of a businessman, but always a mentor. And he had no qualms in sharing knowledge. I mean, that is one thing I must tell you. I have done so many projects where he would be, you know, at site at 12 at midnight or past midnight. And if somebody didn't know something, he would sit there and educate that person. And he took so much passion in education, which actually is a unique skill. I mean, not everyone among us are great teachers, are great mentors. But that is one great memory that you know, we have about Ranjit, which actually brings me to another aspect of quality. You can do any amount of engineering, you can have any kind of standards, you can have any amount of processes, but without people, that's meaningless. Would you agree? Would all in the room agree? How many of you agree with me? Isn't it people that empower this industry? At the end of the day, if you don't have good quality people, when I mean good quality, all of us are great human beings, but what I mean to say is, in terms of technical knowledge, in terms of process knowledge, in terms of the discipline of, implementation, all of that boils down to the people's skills, to the hard skills and the soft skills part of the industry, which is actually something that me and Mr. Chopra will cover tomorrow morning. We will talk a little bit more about the knowledge gap in this industry. This is actually a unique industry. The AV industry is not really well known to people out there. You go and talk to any graduating student today in the university and ask them, do you know about the AV industry? They wouldn't. They would have heard about consumer audio. They would have heard about, companies that make TVs and displays and so on. But have they heard about the integration of all these technologies? They haven't. So as part of our community, I think it's a larger goal for us to go out there, talk more about this industry, engage with the students, engage with the brighter minds that are coming out. And I'm not saying the rest of the, other careers are not great, but look at this. This is a creative field. We're all having fun. I came into audio and AV because it was a lot of fun. I started my career 17, 18 years back. I was in IT. I was writing software. And as luck would have it, I met somebody who kind of guided me onto this career. And I'm eternally thankful. Would I go back to doing anything else? Probably not. But that moment of enlightenment is so important. And I wish that a lot more people come into this industry, increase the talent pool, increase the quality of talent, and thereby improve the quality of deliverables and projects. Would my panel agree?
Yeah, actually, Prashant, it's very true what you said, especially what my mind rushed to is this time when we went and did a couple of campus interviews in a couple of engineering colleges. And we found that, when we began the session with them to enlighten them about what the industry is all about, they had blank faces. And as we progressed into the session and we explained what it is you do, what it is rather you experience when you walk into an office building, they were shocked. From not knowing about the industry to wanting to join, we had candidates who were so keen, and then unfortunately COVID hit. But they were so keen, and they would bring in really amazing amount of quality and actually save time in projects because they are willing, they're hungry to see how it can be done in a better way, and they learn fast. And that's my point, is that to find the right people in the right places.
So my question is, did you all know this is your true calling when you started out in your careers? Kapil? Did you know you would end up in the audio or the video industry?
So when I was, I hated biology, so I had to go for electronics somehow. But the funny part is after my engineering, I had to choose what masters to go for. Coming from the audio side, I said, hey, audio acoustics degree is good, gets me to electroacoustics, get me this. The same time, an offer from a different university to do architectural acoustics. And today I'm doing architectural acoustics more than anywhere else. The thing is, what is your background doesn't define you. Like people in our company who are electrical engineers, chemical engineers, and they all are doing AV, acoustics and stuff. So don't let what is your first degree define you. And it's not necessary as well, engineering. I think you just need to have an engineering mind. We have a new admit in our office over there. He learned mechanical, using mechanical machines, but he's become so good in doing 3D modeling for electroacoustics. That is his calling. So I don't think you should define yourself what is your calling, what you like to do, and what gives you good pleasure, and at the end of the day you get paid for it. I think that's the way to go ahead on that.
Very, very true. Same happened with me. Like I did my mechanical engineering and MBA, and I was always wanting to utilize my engineering knowledge somewhere. And I landed in Actis, and I started learning. I actually started from manufacturing background, and there we used to manufacture lighting dimmers and those times. I'm talking about 20 years back. And then I started thinking about it, where these dimmers are getting used. And there how I entered into the field, and I never knew like where I'm going to land in the end. But it sounded to be very interesting field in the end, yeah.
So, just a fun story that I want to share with you. I did my engineering in computers from Bombay University, and we had a subject called digital signal processing. How many of you have heard of digital signal processing? Quite a few. Great. Fantastic, right? You learn Fourier transforms, and you learn how analog digital, filters work and so on. It's very abstract. It's a very mathematical subject. I flunked that 3 times, thrice, right? Guess what is the field that I entered into AV with? DSP. DSP. I got my first job in the AV industry selling digital signal processors. So I think that, if you fail enough number of times, you'll find your calling. So anyway, just a fun fact.
So now if you're saying that, in my engineering college, there was a gentleman who failed microprocessors at every level. And I think he's given 7 KTs. He's the biggest professor for private tuitions for microprocessor for engineering today. And, it is, as you're saying that you learn it over and over again, and it just gets imprinted into your bloodstream then. So,
just small thing I want to add. Ranjit ji, when he was running RST, he came, he called me for an interview, very casual meeting outside in a restaurant. And he asked me one question, Abdul, what do you do? And I still in fact, all of us struggle when somebody asks you what AV field is, what do you do? And it's very difficult to make them understand what exactly we are into. So the dilemma is still there. So Ranjit ji asked me, what do you do? And I was in Actis that time, and I said, sir, I manage people. And he liked that answer. He said, for success of any project, you don't need to manage the project, you need to manage people.
At least you gave them such an intelligent answer. When I was about to get married, people used to ask me, what do you do? And I was saying, I sell loudspeakers, right? I sell loudspeakers, audio electronics for a living. And for the most part, people nodded their head. And during the drink session, etc., they said, yaar, wo kuch DJ wala kaam karta hai. So that's what my family thinks of me. My extended family, my in-laws think that I'm some form of a DJ, which is fine by me. I don't have a problem with that. But that's how educated people are about our industry.
Right, so for most of us out here sharing this time together, I'd like to take you all back to those CTS days where the CTSD exam was a 10-hour long exam. You remember? I hated exams, so I never gave it. But the fact of the matter is that this industry, the AV industry, it's not only about installing an AV system in the room. At times, you have to pick the architect out and tell him your design is wrong. You're facing the screen in the wrong direction. You won't have good video conferencing. At times, you have to pick the architect out and say, look, you're having just one door in this boardroom of 40 people. What happens if there's a fire? So in this industry, over a period of years that we have spent designing systems, and thanks to the CTS exams and the entire syllabus that we had back then, you remember, Prashant? That we have been taught all these things, and we've realized that we've actually corrected. And now, when projects are becoming of a very large scale, and it's a lot of cut and paste that goes into floor after floor after floor, that people, I mean, all across all the domains, the design, architectural design, the electrical design, the air conditioning design, even air conditioning effects. If you don't design your air conditioning system very well and you have rooms adjoining each other, I would possibly hear the meeting happening in the third room, and we have to point this out to the the relevant teams, the air conditioning team. So there's a lot of responsibility that actually we shoulder because we have, at one point in time, we were taught all these things. At one point in time, out of interest, we dug into it and we pulled out this kind of information. What do you think, Kapil? You definitely faced these things when you were designing for acoustic requirements, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is some cut and copy paste, but every project has a different challenge. And means there are some, always with the ground rule is, whatever you can cut, copy, paste is just the ground rule. That's your bed level, where it will go there. But every project, as far as is a new challenge every time. It's a different challenge, but if you have your basics right, then I don't think it's an issue. And I think all of us who are in the industry because of passion, we have nuts and bolts quite in the right place. And it's fun, actually, it's fun, and I know a lot of people here who we worked over the years, and all of us have fun, and we drink to it as well. And my interview thing is, if you can outdrink me, you're going to be my boss. Otherwise, I can outdrink everyone else.
No, actually, just want to add one point. The AV projects are very challenging at times because, as we are finding it difficult to explain it to our relatives and near ones and dear ones. Similarly, when you go at site, the PMC is not aware of your requirement. Even IT guy raise hand and says I don't know what these people do. And similarly, HVAC guy and those people. So when you go as a AV professional at site, you are not only AV professional, you have to do kind of PMC, lot of coordination. You have to train and explain the architects what kind of acoustic, what kind of AEC requirement, what kind of finishes you require. So it's a very interesting and challenging field. You are not only doing this piece of electronic equipment, it is part of acoustic, part of lighting, part of other protocols like, signal transformation and signal transportation. So all those things are becoming very challenging, and as size increases, that becomes more challenging.
I think it's fair to say that, every project starts with a good design. If that design is not done well, and the right kind of products or the right kind of solutions are not specified to begin with, then you will have a lot of trouble and a lot of cost that will need to be corrected going forward. And that is one of the key things that is ignored in most of the projects in India, which brings me to an interesting topic, which you can only talk in India about, jugaad, right? How many of you know this word? I mean, I'm sure everyone knows jugaad, right? We all do jugaad in our life. Now, that is one thing that does not work in AV. Because if you do jugaad, it'll come and bite you in the back. Correct? I just want to take the panel's point of view on where they have encountered jugaad. I'm sure we have a lot of photos on our phones of all the jugaads that people have done. But I just want to take 5 minutes and discuss that part and on why that is not acceptable. And if it is, then it better be an innovative jugaad.
I think the most jugaad I have seen is power recycle. If it doesn't work, please do a power recycle on there. Let's get the caps empty and let's see what goes on here. Because most of errors are human errors. You cannot blame a machine. If you program it wrong, it's going to work wrong. And, there are a lot of jugaads, and I'm not going to put it on light here, but I've seen power recycle as a jugaad.
Yeah, so jugaad used to be something that we had to do back then. But now, thankfully, companies are coming in with their standards, global standards, and you have to follow them. You have to design the system as per those global standards. And earlier, you said, everything is becoming into one box. So we are back to box selling, right? And there's not much jugaad you can do with it. But it's very important for us in this industry to make sure that everything is connected well. I think that when we're making provisions in projects, we have to make ample provisions so that as technology progresses, we don't need to do a jugaad later. If we have to pull a different cable, it's easy to do. Move this out. And
what is your personal experience of having seen jugaad and that costing a lot than what the jugaad actually costs?
It really bites. It really bites you. It comes to bite you. It'll make you lose your sleep. Back then, we've done these things, we've learned. But yes, terrible jugaads. We had to do some worked, some didn't. Some really did it.
For Jugaad technology, I would say India is a cost-driven market.
Correct.
And many a times we have proper solution in place, not in India, but foreign companies are already using it. But when you want, like, client's expectation is of BMW and budget is always of Maruti 800. That is a common scenario we have. So many a times, like, integrator consultants and these people are forced to do that Jugaad. Of course, it is not right, and especially in large projects, you cannot afford to do this. That is one. India is known for Jugaad. I will give you one good example, also positive side of it. Ceiling micro tile of Sennheiser, and I've attended a couple of seminars and conferences with them, and their international body says, international designers and their R&D team says, it cannot work for local voice lift, local voice enforcement, it cannot work. But they say, like, somehow our Indian team keep on doing this. So our Indian engineers, Indian mentality, and they said, like, they are keep on doing it. Finally, now they have accepted that fact, yes, it can work for voice lift, and not only they accepted, other tile manufacturing companies, ceiling tile, they have also started selling voice lift with the ceiling tile. So sometimes our Jugaad are so successful.
So in the sound reinforcement industry especially, Jugaad is a byword almost every single day. So when we design audio solutions, typically you have to provide for enough headroom in the amplification in order to make sure that, even if there is, you're driving the system hard, if there is an over-enthusiastic DJ, or whatever, you still won't blow the loudspeakers. But during my time at Harman, half of the warranty calls that we got were because of blown high-frequency drivers. And that is because the amplifiers were under-specified, and that is a Jugaad. All because they didn't want to spend on a slightly higher powered amplifier. But when you look at the cost of that Jugaad, it actually adds up over a period of time. And, but anyway, so I think, are we short on time? Yeah, are we short on time? I just wanted to open the floor for maybe a couple of questions. If anyone wanted to ask us something or want to share an experience, or we don't have much time. I think we are almost there, but please feel free to, we can talk about this all day, frankly. This topic is so interesting and we can all share personal experiences. But I just want to make sure that we open it to the floor. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you for that. But I wanted to involve you in some way, kind of tell us your experiences, or please ask us something. Go ahead.
We'll send you the microphone. If anyone of you have questions, please let us know. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Right here.
Hello, sir. As we were talking about like knowledge of people regarding AV industry, and they are not very, people are not aware about our industry. But after the lockdown, I have seen the change that people are getting more and more aware because of working from home and everything. And now people pay attention to little things like room noise, ambience, and acoustics and etc. So basically the industry has come up to large scale to a small scale or personal, as we are talking DIY, Jugaad kind of things. So how is it going to change or improve, that large scale commercialization of industry to like this change which has happened just now?
Thanks for your question. What I understand is you're saying after the pandemic and the lockdown, this industry seems to have shrunk in size. The number of projects or the size of projects may have shrunk in size. I want to assure you, on the contrary, I have been out meeting a lot of people in the last couple of weeks. The amount of projects that are out there has actually quadrupled. The number of projects at least have increased to such an extent. Also, the reason for that being, in the last 2 years, people have not spent on technology at all, or they have spent very little. Now, all of a sudden, people are coming back to work. So in the corporate side of things, people are coming back to work. People are going to hotels, people are getting entertained. I'll give you a great example. Middle of last year, I decided to go to prospect for a nightclub project in Goa. Have you been to Goa recently? Any of y'all been to Goa? Crazy, right? Can you find a hotel now, off season? Probably can't. right? So we were standing outside a nightclub, very popular nightclub, and there were people queued up for almost 45 minutes waiting to pay 8,000 rupees cover charge to get in. And they were saying, no, let people come out and then you can go in. So it has gone crazy. So right now, there is so much demand in the market that if you are now starting a business to do AV contracting of some form, this is the perfect time. This is so much demand right now in the market. So I think you will see that demand spike for at least 2 to 3 years. Are you guys seeing the same thing? Are you guys, yeah? So if you're not seeing that, please come and talk to us. Absolutely. I hope that answered your question. Thank you. Anyone else? There's one over there.
So the point which you mentioned, the nightclub and the demand of entertainment and nightlife also. I work in a nightclub in Goa, and they have installed.
I'm sorry, sir. You'll have to speak a little louder.
Okay, so they have installed Martin Audio sound system, and so they need more sound, like they need more speakers because the headroom is very less. And owners are my friend. I try to make them understand that you have to put more speakers so you have headroom and you have increased sound quality. So when we do the installation, how do you like convey the information that you need more, you need to put more money, you need to invest more? So what sort of like, what would you put in the front so they understand? Because they are coming from very budget mindset, like they don't want to spend. They just want to get it done.
That's actually a very good question. This is something that maybe Kapil may want to take, but I'll give you a small perspective. See, people not from the industry do not understand any of the DBSPLs or do not understand sensitivity or any of the parameters we talk about. We can tell them by gut feel that these many speakers you require. But you probably want to give them an E-splot. You want to show them visually that this is how much coverage you will get, or this is how much frequency coverage, or how much dB loudness you will find in each. So that is one fantastic tool, in my opinion. Do an E-splot. Do an E-splot and tell your customer, show them visually that this is how it is. This is all mathematical. It's not jugaad. It is not something we are just thinking out of our head. So that's probably one of the way. I'm sure Kapil finds that every single day whenever he's talking to customers, because he talks to studios, he talks to very high energy bars and pubs sort of installations.
I think, like you were saying, the only numbers they're interested in is the cost, right? Thing is, you have to, there are two things to it. You have to either take them to a place where they can hear it and they can understand the difference. The thing is, transmitting numbers to someone who doesn't understand that is going to be a waste of time. Doing an ease plot and stuff is good for your own reference and to submit and stuff, but they will not understand. They probably, if they're trusting you for the design, they have to go with it. So you have to give them a word that this is what it is, yeah? And the cost of that, blowing up speakers and amplifiers, as you're saying, is much more expensive to do that. You know, it just, with acoustics as well, it's more expensive to rectify something than to do it right the first time. So if they want to, there's a delta of 10-20%, and then if it's there, any person in comments will understand that. When there's a delta of 50-60%, or it's almost double the price, you have to make them hear the difference. And or you ask them, what level do you think your bar or your club should be, so that you can be successful in selling your liquor? At the end of it, they're selling F&B, right? Yeah, they are not selling the speaker, they're not selling the decor. All that is to attract customers. So if someone is coming into a scrungy bar, and something is blaring in the ear, and he's hearing more distortion than this, you don't want to spend money on drinking, right? You want to have a good time, you want to have an extended time of spend. So you have to put it in the social terms in this way. Of course, the mathematics, and this is for your satisfaction to prove a point to them, but it has to go a little social, because that's the language they understand.
One line answer is, we are conducting the CAVS program, designing workspaces in changing time. So one line answer is, we are conducting that, how to convince, how to make your customer understand about your needs and the technology.
Yeah, I'd like to share just one line. I managed to once bring a client back to understanding why you need to spend when it needs to be spent. In a room a quarter of this size, they were planning on 16 tons of air conditioning. So I asked him why. Just put 2 air conditioners of 2 tons each. It should work, shouldn't it? He actually snapped back at me. He said, are you crazy? I said, exactly that. We are dealing with, sound pressure level. If you think 2 air conditioners wouldn't do that, I'm telling you, these number of speakers will not fill this room with sound. And we move air. When we are trying to achieve that amount of bass in a particular room, the kind of headroom that we want, the SPL that we want, we are actually moving air from the speaker cone to your ear. We need this kind of radiating surfaces. So he then, because it was something that he understood very well, air conditioning, and he said, yes, let us have your proposal. That was the time during systems integration days. I consider that one of my greatest wins, actually.
Thanks so much for your insights. Is there one last question? I think we can take one last question and then we'll be done. One last question? Anyone? No? Anything on Jugaad you want to share? Thanks so much for being such a lovely audience. You've been so patient with us and listened to us through the discussion. But we are going to be around, so please feel free to catch us outside the venue. We're happy to answer any of your questions or any discussions you may want to have at any point. Thanks again so much. Thank you so much for having us. Have a great day.
I request the panelists to please be seated. I call upon Mr. Anil Chopra, the founding director of Palm Expo, to give the token of appreciation to the panel members. Abdul sir, we'll have your certification at CAVS. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay back for our last session of the day, which is top 50 products in technology in Global Pro Sound and Lighting. Thank you.